So you went to the LA County Fair.
Yes.
Okay. You did pretty well for yourself there.
We're talking about the games? Yep.
So what did you do and how did you cheat to get that? Because I saw your girl, who, by the way, is lovely.
Thank you, man. She's awesome.
She is great. But she walked out with a stuffed animal that is bigger than her.
Yes, she did.
I saw you sink in threes.
Uh-huh.
And I was looking at it and I go, this is rigged. Look at this man. He's got magnets in these balls because there is no way he is hitting that deep. Because that dude who's the little counter guy behind the scenes goes like this. All right, here's another one. You know, like he's handing you the balls like, do I have to give this guy something else? So what happened there, sir?
Very, very kind of you to say that it was a 3-pointer, but it was more of a free throw. Maybe
nobody knows that. Just take the 3-pointer, fam. I literally just set you up for like looking better. And you're like, actually, no. It's kind of like the women's handicap spot on the golf tee. It's no big deal. What's up, everybody? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcast, Rafa Esparza, coming to you with another great installment of the Grappling Hour. We have an excellent guest with us here today. We're going to get to him in a second, but before we go to him, a couple quick reminders. One, if you like this show and you want to support us, and I hope that you do, you can go on over to patreon.com/grappling hour. If you go there for just $5 a month, you can see these interviews 30 days before anybody else. And if you pay a few extra bucks, you can see technique breakdowns. We do tape studies with the athletes themselves. We have a segment called Roast Raf, where people roast my competition footage for whatever reason. It's a very popular segment. And then we are about to do a segment, which may actually change a little bit considering new things, but we're going to analyze how people made it to ADCC. So we're going to go through their tapes. We're going to sit down. We're going to look at some of their match footage and show you some of the techniques and things that made them get to the big dance. Although now Craig Jones has a thing, so it might get very confusing. We'll see what it is. But we're still going to look at some tape and do some analysis. So you can check that out at Grappling Hour on the Patreon. So go do that. You can also like, comment, and subscribe on this video. If you don't know what you want to like, comment, and subscribe on this video about, we will give you a prompt by the end of it. So just hang tight. Know we're going to give you something great. Additionally, you can also find us at Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. We're putting up more and more of those audio episodes for you guys there because I know a lot of you don't always watch this. And I hear on Spotify, you actually can see videos. So you can actually watch video podcasts of these episodes on Spotify. So we do put up the videos there. And last but not least, if you like this merch, not this merch, but my merch, normally the one that says Grappling Hour, you can go to rafesparza.com/grappling hour. For $25, you can get yourself a t-shirt. It supports me, it supports the show, allows us to do some fancy stuff and get all this fancy equipment and do fancy interviews. So go do that. And then you can also get a hoodie. Now, a lot of you compete. I know it's starting to get kind of warm in certain regions, but when you compete, you kind of want to stay warm. The hoodie is going to definitely keep you warm. So go on over, rafesparza.com/merch. All right, let's talk about our guest right now. So I'm excited to talk with this guy. We have been trying to do an interview. He lives a little far. And when that happens, you try and sweeten the pot. You say, hey, sir, I understand you live far. Let's try and do it maybe remotely or in person. And I was lucky here because our guest was thinking to himself like, hey, I'll show up. Yeah. I got no issue with that. It's just time and space. Right. And you sweeten the pot and you say, you can beat me up too. And he goes, well, hold on. I definitely want to do that. So we were able to get in some training. And I have to tell you, after his performances at SparStar, I can tell you, he is definitely an emerging talent. He has excellent grappling. He's won a few of his fights from some savage submissions. And I was very happy to not only get the opportunity to train with him, but in getting to talk with him, I see why it is he's got the right personality, the right temperament. And I think you're going to see him go further. So I thought today we'd get to know a little bit better. One, Michael Santiago. Good to meet you, man. And good to see you, brother.
You too, man. Thank you, Raf. Appreciate it, man.
Can I just say something right off the top?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you look kind of like when Bad Bunny is supposed to be serious. You know what I mean? Like, has anybody ever told you this?
You know, that's so funny. I've probably gotten that Bad Bunny reference 5 times within the last year. Never have I gotten that ever in my life. Within the last year, like 5 times from people at the gym, at the store, whatever. Like, just randomly, hey, has anyone ever told you look like Bad Bunny? I'm not a Bad Bunny fan. I don't hate on him.
Okay.
I don't like dislike his music, but like, I just don't have any like affiliation or interest in him. But it's funny because it's like I've gotten that before, which is really funny.
I mean, I think of it as a high compliment because he is a very popular artist right now in our time and region. So whenever I hear something like that, you know, at first he didn't register for me because old, but then I heard some of his songs. I was like, okay, some of these are bangers. I like that.
Right.
But then the other thing that affected me was I was like, oh, I saw him do pro wrestling and he was very good at that.
I seen that he did that, but I didn't watch any of it.
Oh
really,
my God.
But he's pretty good.
It was legitimately, it's the best celebrity
Really?
to come in and do it because he legit gave into the world. Like he said, you know what? I know that I'm not supposed to be a threat physically. So the way psychologically we're going to build my character is it's going to be me coming in with like weapons, utilizing my size and speed, and just so much fun to watch him. So it's kind of a good reference to have if you're looking at it.
I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take it, man.
We should just say we just finished about an hour-long training session.
Yeah.
And I was really, really appreciative of your time. You have great talent and skill. One thing that really jumps off the back is you approach your grappling like a true wrestler. So when you're rolling, it feels like I'm actually wrestling you, even though we're not wrestling.
Right.
Because the intense pressure. So when did you start wrestling? When did that happen for you?
I started in middle school, so I was around 12 years old, 7th grade. I just always grew up like messing around with my cousins and things like that. And my dad always just like, hey, let's, open up the living room, put all the couches back, and let's just, grapple, roll around. And he's always been a fan of UFC since like the early days. So when I could, I would always, tune in. And man, just being a fan from the early days, we're talking about like, the Hoist Gracies from the beginning and him replaying me the videos of, the big guy doing the elbows and the crucifix and, all the way to Chuck Liddell's and Stephen Bonner's and Forrest Griffin's and all that early days, man. So we would always just mess around, me and my dad, all the time. And then when I find out an opportunity to wrestle in middle school, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna go try it out. And it was one of the probably best decisions I've ever made.
It also, it suits you like a glove because when we were rolling, there'd be a moment where maybe I could get up with you. And then I was like, oh, he's already past guard now. Like, this is how fast you are. So you're somebody who's learned how to utilize your speed in such an efficient way. And the way you tie it with your jiu-jitsu is really, really solid. So it kind of made sense because, I was telling you a little bit off air, like I had a certain expectation on how you would roll just based on your aggression and how I've seen you finish submissions. So I knew that would be very good. But like your all around game and getting to see it on just the isolated jiu-jitsu, you can tell that the people you're working with and your instructors, like they've just seen what they had as a wrestler and said like, oh, this is clay. I'm going to mold this guy into something great. So if this is where you're at as a purple belt, I think really good things are coming for you in the near future.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And I think you said it perfectly right there. I came into Cage Combat, met Alex Reyes, and it was, hey, man, I was just interested into doing some sort of training. And then I think he saw a little bit of that light of that wrestling background. And, I came in typical wrestler, coming in and a little spazzy and, little crazy. And you're just going hard nose all the time. But you get humbled real quick and you fall into traps and things like that. But I think you said it perfectly, man. I came in with that basis and that background, and he was able to, and along with the other training partners and coaches, able to mold me into more of a sound game, but still utilizing those, fundamentals of wrestling. You know what I mean?
I like to tell our guys this. So anytime I work with a wrestler and I can tell they're a little spazzy, I like to straight up tell them like, hey, I'm not going to change what you do per se, but I'm going to take away your energy. Right. Like what I want you to roll at 50% of what you go at. And I'm going to make you more technical, and then I'm going to unleash you back. But I need you to slow down because what's going to end up happening is you're going to hurt yourself.
Right.
I'm not going to get hurt.
Right.
Like I'll funnel you away from me.
Yeah.
But like, I feel very good about my chances. I feel very bad about you spazzing and hurting yourself or one of the other guys.
Right. One of like the newer guys where it's like, cause you're new and they're new, but you have a little bit of a sense of the game. And it's like, you can definitely hurt somebody that doesn't really know anything.
And know what I mean? My favorite is like, we'll do this. And I'm sure you've done this now, but there's that moment where you'll see them beast a couple of the new guys
Yeah.
And then you'll do that thing where you go, hey man, you're going to roll with me now. And they go, wait, what? And I go, yeah, we're going to roll right now.
Yeah.
And every once in a while you get somebody who's like, hey, I left my keys. And I was like, no, we're rolling right now. And I'll just assure them, I'm like, I'm not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
But I just want you to understand what I'm telling you on how to level it down. And this is a long-term goal, which is watch what happens when you add your speed back into this. And I feel like that's especially where you are, is you can see the measured way that they said, like, hey man, this is good. Don't lose this.
Right.
This energy is going to go far, especially for the fight game. But we're going to break it down so that you're going to be so technical and utilize these gifts that you have, because there was one move I think I was trying on you. I won't tell it because, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I was looking at it and I just remember being like, oh, I'm stuck here. I can't finish this move. And it was one that I normally finish on people. And I was just like, oh, my man's not just like, you know, normally you don't want to pay the compliment. Oh, you're just strong.
Right.
I was like, no, he's strong and he knows what to do with his body. So I was like, oh, okay, good to know.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that with the whole, like, don't want to, like, I guess, not compliment you or offend you by saying strong. Because, man, I don't know until how long, like, a couple friends or family members or even my dad was like, man, like, you're just so naturally gifted, man. You know, it's just, things just come to you and you just got it. And it's like, man, okay, you could have maybe said that early on in my wrestling career, or maybe even early on in my MMA career, but like, man, I've worked hard for like where I've gotten to, you know what I mean? And the people that's seen it is like my coaches, my training partners, and it's been a grind, man. And so like, I guess I've heard it too, like, yeah, take it as a flattering, things that you make look, you know, that you're good at, and they take it as like, it's easy for you. And I'm not saying it's easy for me, but it's like, take it as a compliment. But it's like, man, I grind for this skill level. And I can tell, I don't know, that it's just like an unawareness from someone that doesn't know the sport or the in and outs. I guess it's just me as a fan of football too. Why can't this guy get that 1 yard completion or that 1 yard conversion? It's like, dude, it's 1 yard. And then you go out into a football field and you're like, wow, 1 yard is actually a pretty good distance. There's 200, 300 people, 3-pound men like trying to stop you from going. So.
Absolutely. So the other thing I have to avoid is like, if I'm rolling with somebody for the first time, like, we don't have the benefit of seeing each other on multiple days. Yeah. So it's not going to be the thing I lead off with, especially if I'm like, no, he's doing so well, it's patronizing or it's condescending. Right. When I'm like, you're doing well. Like, it's just, when you do acknowledge it, you have to make sure you're like, but let's not be fooled here. You lift weights and you're very strong in where you are. Right. It's just, you wouldn't maintain the position unless you had the technique. And I think that's where the consistency was for me. And that was where, you know, normally in fights, they go so fast. You have usually 2-3 minutes to work in amateurs. So when that happens, I see like a snippet of you. And really, you do so well in those short bursts. But here it was like we had a long form roll. So it was like watching you go through your entire game and then saying like, oh, he likes to do this or he likes to do that. And I just... It broadens my understanding of what it is that you do.
I appreciate that, man. It's awesome to talk to people like you that really understand the game, because I'll talk to my buddies all the time, and like in the gym, it's a family, right? And even us barely knowing each other after the roll, even during the roll, there's sort of like, you know, a friendship that forms just from rolling, just from the love of the sport and you understanding something that not everyone else does. It's kind of like a fight club kind of thing. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. And to even bond over that and pay compliments back to one another, and your game is great, man. And I appreciate the things that we even just went over and stuff like that. And it's like, man, like it's I appreciate you for even taking the time to invite me over and have me and be interested and willing to have me over, man. And it's the compliments go right back to you as well, man.
It's very nice of you. I just think of it like this. I don't know many interviewers who do roll with their guest.
Yeah.
And to me, I think it's not that it's foolish. It's just, why wouldn't you try to learn? Right. And it's just a way of like, people who roll will talk about a brotherhood, or like you kind of get in this fraternity and for girls sorority, whatever you want to call it. Right. But you just feel connected in a way that's like, oh, I didn't know you like that. Right. Now I kind of know you like this.
Yeah.
And then guess what? If I commentate one of your next fights, I'm going to be like, oh, bad news for this guy here. He's really good, you know, or oh man, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but like, spoiler alert, everybody, it could be the beginning of the end. So I like knowing that, but not spoiling it for people and just having that extra information. But, I feel like what gets lost when people roll is those minutes afterwards. And so, if I have something that I see, I just pass it on. I'll be like, here's a note, or hey, here's this. And I have no problem when people do that to me because I go, oh, I'm trying to learn. Like, give me your stuff.
For sure.
And so we're going back and forth. You're telling me this, I'm telling you that. And it's just like, okay, cool. We'll leave here today knowing certain parts about each other's game that it's like, oh, okay, you're not just a fighter. You're a very technical jiu-jitsu guy. If you're rolling with me, it's like, yeah, I'm the voice guy or the interviewer or the commentator. But like, I'm down to roll with anybody.
Because you're selling yourself short too as well, man. You got a good game and a strong game. And I really don't want to just blow over those compliments because that really means a lot, man. And, even what I was saying earlier, it's like, oh man, like someone's finally giving me the credit, but it's humbling. And I really take it as a gratitude, you know what I mean, for sharing that and saying those things. And it means a lot, man, because it's how it is, man. It's a grind and it becomes a lifestyle and, blood, sweat, and tears. And you've obviously been through that ringer as well to get to where you're at and the skills that you have, man. And you're not just your everyday podcaster or commentator.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. Here's the main thing. I don't think you can talk as much trash as I do without having some form of defense. So what I just tell people all the time is I'm like, oh, I'll roast everybody.
Yeah.
I have no issue with that. But like, I'll invite them to roll.
Right.
It's just, I'm better at this.
Yeah.
And I'm serviceable at the other thing. So that I'm like, no, I'll stay safe.
Right.
And the worst is, and I think you got a small taste of it. We don't know each other that well, but we knew each other pretty well after. But like, if you would do something, I'd be like, I wouldn't do that. And the only reason I did that is because you started going through and kind of giving me return trash talk because I saw something that you did and I just thought, oh, who's roasting this? This is very funny. And you're like, yo, you started this. And you started coming at me in the chat and I was like, we don't know each other, sir. And I thought about it. I was like, does he want me to go in on him? Yeah. Because if he does, so are you like that? Did I get a taste of how you are with your guys in the DMs?
You know what? I think it's so funny because I felt the same exact way. Like I'm talking to my fiance, I'm like, I don't even know this guy. And he's throwing like little jabs and I know it's harmless, but like if he's trying to play that game, I know it's harmless. Let's play the game. Like let's dabble a little bit. Let's have a little bit of fun. You know what I mean? Because like it was so funny because I'm looking at the message. I'm like I don't even know you, bro. Like and so just coming back and like you said, it was small, playful, just on the surface, no deep cuts. And I think as long as it stays there, man, it's all fun and games. And I have no problem. I'm really not like big on that when it comes to like people that I don't know or even opponents. Like that's really not my game. But man, if we're cool and we're shooting a little bit of a little small trash.
Okay. Let me give the context here. Okay.
All right.
So what happens is they put up a video of you.
Yeah.
Now you think that I'm doing the roast. I think the edit did most of the roasting in this.
Yeah.
But it showed you on the cage. And most people, it's the footage of them on the cage, guns up, pointing to their friends and family. And instead they show you struggling to get up there. And the thing is, you're like, I was up there. And I'm like, sure, dude. I'm not trying to say you didn't make it up there. I'm just saying that's what the video looks like. And you took that as, hold on. You know what? I'm going to tell you, you're lying. I don't stand for this TMZ style stuff. And I was just like, you know what? There was nothing that I did, but I just thought this is so funny to me. And I love when I can get to know people on that level where it's not, they feel like they're really insulted.
Right.
Because you don't know how it goes on the other side.
For
so when I saw you were playing along, I was like, dude, I had just walked out of a wrestling show. I was in a good mood. I'm literally picking up some food and you're talking trash to me. And I go, this is great. And somebody who didn't even know me, they're like, oh, what's up? And I was like, oh, I don't know this guy, but he's roasting me. I'm going to interview him soon. He's great.
Yeah.
And I immediately felt like, all right, you felt like part of the inner circle of the group that I have where I go, all right, we're going to get along just fine.
And so, I think that's where my response like fell at too. It was like, I was nowhere near offended, but I was like, okay, like I'm going to, actually, this is where I was at. You know what I mean? So if you want to make some accusations, let's get our facts right. And just playing that game. Though, you know what I mean?
But the reason I bring it up is
Yeah.
it did show me how insanely competitive you are without telling me. You were just showing me. I was like, oh, he's gonna keep talking to me because he thinks he's winning. He's not, but he's coming at me because it's just how you are. And I was like, all right, I know a little bit about this guy.
Right.
So I want to ask a few qualifying questions here because there was one thing I made mention of, and I felt like this was maybe the deepest cut that I got in on you. So you went to the LA County Fair.
Yes.
Okay. You did pretty well for yourself there.
We're talking about the games? Yep.
So what did you do and how did you cheat to get that? Because I saw your girl, who, by the way, is lovely.
Thank you, man. She's awesome.
She is great.
She's awesome.
But she walked out with a stuffed animal that is bigger than her.
Yes, she did.
I just saw you. You have a baseball hat on, but that day...
I almost had the same outfit, I think.
You're very close to it.
I think I did have the same outfit.
But I saw you sink in threes. And I was looking at it and I go, this is rigged. Look at this man. He's got magnets in these balls because there is no way he is hitting that deep. Because that dude who's the little counter guy behind the scenes goes like this. All right, here's another one. Like he's handing you the balls like, do I have to give this guy something else? So what happened there, sir?
To very, very, very kind of you to say that it was a 3-pointer, but it was more of a free throw, maybe.
Nobody knows that. Just take the 3-pointer, fam. I literally just set you up for like looking better. And you're like, actually, no. It's kind of like the women's handicap spot on the golf tee. It's no big deal.
Yeah. But, I was like, man, like my goal was, dude, you know how expensive the tickets are to even play games there. But I was like, man, how often do we do this? And the first time I took it was last year. And I probably wanted like a little baby stuffed fish off a dart pop a balloon game. And I was like, you know what, this time I'm gonna redeem myself. So when I saw the basketball game, I was like, we actually saw it from the whatever ski lift that goes over the whole thing. And I'm looking down, I'm like, okay, as long as the rims aren't oval shaped, like I have a chance. You know what I mean? So when I went up to the game and the guy next to me was actually kind of draining his buckets, and I was like, okay, I got a chance. I played a little bit of rec ball back when I was young, and I went up. My first attempt, I missed, and you had to make 2 in a row. Second shot I made, and I was like, oh, dang, like I got to go again. My second time around, I made the first one cool. I was like, okay, I can't blow this one. This is for the big stuffed animal. I hit it, and I was like, oh, man, I was super hyped just because I wanted to gift her,
listen, dude, we've all got someone, a wife, a spouse, a fiance, if you would, that we're always trying to do something big up for. And listen, most of the times, most wives, spouses, whoever is trained to be like, I wasn't expecting anything. But that video footage of her holding that stuffed animal was like, ooh, look at, like, you got her the best diamond rings kind of equivalent. Because I was like, yo, she's hype. And you know what? I got to be honest. I'm pretty sure my wife would have been hyped too if I did that. So what was the look on her face? And did she get to pick it? Or like, how did that work from there?
Yeah, so it was funny because you walk around and you see, a bunch of either people getting it for their girls. And they're walking around with like, I don't know, Pickle Ricks, Bulldogs, all this other stuff. And I could tell she's like a little eye, and she's very much not like that. But I was like, I'm gonna get you one today. Like, just watch, just wait. And we ended up going at the end of the night. And there was like a big ugly blue gorilla, like dumb other little animals. And then she saw like the pinkish, pig or whatever it was. And she said, oh, I want that. I was like, could we get that? Like, that considers a win? And he was like, yeah. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, got it done, man. And so her big thing is everything pink. So as long as it had little hints of pink, it was a win for me and a win for her.
Well, we also have to give her credit because she's actually the one that probably made this happen. Because you and I were talking, we had a date in mind.
Right.
And then you came back to me, you're like, hey, man, I just talked with her and like.
Talk to the boss.
Nah, man, that's... So can you, and I just went over, I got my phone. I was like, let's settle this right now. And I literally just moved you out of the way. And I'm like, hi, what date are we looking at? She's like, he is available here and here. And I go, let's do that. And she goes, great doing business with you. Okay, great. And I was just like, it's like talking with a manager in entertainment where you go, the client doesn't know. The client's an idiot.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you're in charge. I know what's happening here. So I just, even getting to talk with you at the last Bar Star, you and Dylan, who I've seen his work, big fan.
Heck yeah.
And just getting to converse with you guys, you get a sense of an extension of your gym. Like I see a very relaxed, very comfortable, very easygoing group. And that makes me so happy because I've seen your work in the cage and it can be intense. I've seen you guys go to work and clearly the work is very good. But I like to do interviews with people who I get a sense like, what are they like interpersonally?
Right.
Like, do I want to spend an hour talking with them?
Yeah.
Do I want to spend an hour and a half trying to avoid every one of their crucifix attacks? Like, what do I want to do with this person?
Right.
And with you and Dylan, it was so easygoing. And I just thought like, man, what a great sense of character your gym has with him being a very prominent black belt who fights.
Oh yeah.
And you being this emerging talent that you see good things for in the future. So respect to your gym and just the standard that you're doing. And even when I see those videos of like, I think on your page, you have one of you guys greeting the kids as a coaching staff and going over and high-fiving them. Like those are very small details that I go like, oh, that's a gym. Like that's a gym you would want to belong to and want to get to know better. So how would you describe your gym atmosphere? Like, how do you guys hang out? What is it? Because I've also seen you guys yesterday betting ridiculously for stupid money.
Oh, coin flips.
For coin flips.
Yeah.
Because I go, that's how much of a compulsive gambler my dude is over here. Yeah. They're betting on like the equivalent of like, is the duck going to walk this way or that way that we wound up?
Literally. But yeah, no, Cage Combat Academy out of Victorville, California. Alex Reyes is the owner. He's owned it for, I want to say like 14 years now.
Okay.
And his amazing wife, Rosalie, they've just structured that gym to be literally a family gym. You know what I mean? And so going into there, like I'm telling you, I graduated high school, went to college, and just running amok as a young 20-year-old, and came back home, and I was like, man, I want to get back into mixed martial arts, and the gym that I found was Cage Combat, and they just welcomed me with such open arms, man. And it was, you grow up in a wrestling community. It's very hard nosed, and yes, you find your cliques and you find your groups, but everyone's pretty like, you got to be the baddest in the gym to survive here, you know. And yes, are there moments like that for the people that want to do it at Cage Combat? Of course, and we structure that, and we have that for those that want it like that. But man, there's so many just regular everyday people that just want to come in and have a family gym where they feel comfortable. They feel like they're not going to get beat up. They're going to learn. They're going to push their limits. They're going to be able to help somebody else too. And that's literally what Cage Combat is, man. It's a family gym. But when the killers are necessary to come out for that moment of training, it's a little jungle in there. You know what I mean? When it needs to be for those that want it to be, you know. But for the most part, man, it's such a blessing to work there. Not only train there, but I do work there. I do coach there, and to be an influence to these kids, man. And it took me, I want to say like about a year to really grasp my effect on them, where it's like they literally look at me like, Coach Mike, and I'm just, I'm only a purple belt. I got, a few fights under my belt, man. And praise to God, just got the titles on the last fight. And it's like, they're looking at me like a superstar. And it's like, oh man, like I'm really having this effect on these kids. So I got to be careful with that and make sure that I'm leading them in the right direction. And that all is a trickle down effect from Coach Alex and Rosalie, how they run the gym. And they pour that into me. They pour that into Dylan and our other coach, Jeremy, that just went off into the Riverside Sheriff Department. So he's going and doing that. So, but it's all just a trickle down effect, man. And it starts with Alex Reyes and the way he structures and the way he carries himself. We just try to just pour it all downstream, man.
I mean, it shows. And you get this sense, though, when you are watching you guys. Yeah, you're going to go to work. But what stood out to me first, before seeing any of that and doing any of my research, was the way your gym shows out at these events.
Oh, man.
Like, let me be very honest with you. If I have to go over an hour, I don't know that I'm going to support our guys. I love them. It's just, when you're in that car and your back starts to hurt and you're like, why do I love them? Yeah, I do. I'm going to support these guys. I'm going to support them.
Right.
But like the way that you guys show out from such a long drive at night and then come through, like you guys at the end of certain fights, when you leave, there is a giant chunk of that audience missing.
Man.
So I always look out. And then even then, when I ran in and I talked to you guys at the very end, you were so kind to stick around and talk, but it was at the very end of the night. And you kind of feel like, hey, I don't want to talk too long, but obviously I'm enjoying this, but go. Like, it's a long drive. I don't envy driving on a road that late.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask this. Okay, so we have fundamental questions that we ask here on the show. The first one is, do you remember your first jiu-jitsu class, and was it at that gym?
Yes.
Okay.
Jiu-jitsu, everything jiu-jitsu that I've learned has always been at Cage Combat. And I think the first time I came in, I did the striking class and the jiu-jitsu class, and I was just, again, doing what I know as grappling of wrestling, and I didn't really know much. And for those that were beginners, I was having, I guess, my way. But when I started going up that little totem pole, it was like, oh yeah, like I'm not nowhere where I think I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but it was not again in a bullying standpoint. It was like I think you mentioned earlier. It's kind of almost like that big dog and that pup that's just starting. Hey, I'm gonna discipline you a little bit. I'm not gonna kill you, but I'm here to, hey, let you know you're a little scrappy, but I'm gonna let you know that this is a different level here. And that was very humbling, but also like, wow, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be at. Somewhere I'm supposed to learn, somewhere I'm supposed to grow from. And then I started a good friend, coach, and teammate, Albert Velos. He was fighting at the time for King of the Cage, and he asked, we were doing like a wrestling day. He's like, hey man, like you want to stick around and help me for this camp? Just just wrestling. And I was like, that's all I could give you. So yeah, And then Coach Alex was kind of intrigued and impressed, and he was like, hey man, just keep coming by. Like it'd be awesome just to have you in the camp. I was like, all right, sweet. And that was what really kind of like uprooted me into, I guess, I don't want to say the inner circle, because I don't want to say there's an inner circle and an outer circle. Right.
But like there is a fight crew,
yes,
if you would.
yes,
so
right.
it endears you as somebody with a special talent that can loan itself to that fight crew, which, hey man, on fight camps and fight crews, everybody's got a role.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. I took my role and I was like, oh man, like for sure, like this is what I know. This is what I can give you. If I'm giving you, I guess, competition or good work, like, man, I'm all for it. And to be a part of that, and a small fraction of his growth and his, I guess, preparation for his fight was just so cool to me. You know what I mean? And then to actually go and see a live MMA fight for the first time at Toyota Arena, it was like, wow, like, you see it on TV all the time. But when you're in person and you hear, punches land in person and hitting skin and bones kind of clashing, and you hear the takedowns on the mat, it's a lot louder than you expect. And it was like, wow, like this is pretty wild, but I like this. You know what I mean? And I always refer to it, and it's probably super cliche, but it's literally modern day gladiator stuff. It's you have a bunch of people, just casual people, whether they're fans or they have some experience, and they're just looking at a cage, looking at two people, men and women, go at it, where it's like, man, like it's a little barbaric, but it's pretty awesome. It is awesome. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Is that where it started to kind of seep in your head that you wanted to fight, or was that something that you had as a long time goal? Because it's one thing, I mean, brown people will understand. When the family clears out space, it's a brown pastime. So basically, what you're explaining is something that's not new to me, especially when the TOs are like, no, let's see what happens, because they want to see.
Right.
But I don't know. Some people say right then and there they know they want to fight. But for you, it looked like you saw peaks of it with the MMA team, and you said, well, maybe why not me? Or was that something that was embedded in your head a long time before that even?
Well, I think like I mentioned earlier, I grew up as a fan of like the UFC. So I always just had like a big interest in just watching it as a fan, and never did I really like think I would actually do it, but it was always a thought like, oh man, like that would be cool. You know what I mean? But I didn't know what path to take or how to do it or things like that. And to be honest, by my senior year of wrestling, man, I was pretty just like burnt out. The cutting the weight and all this stuff. I was just kind of over it. You know what I mean? And so when I walked away and when I came back, and I was invited in such just a different atmosphere, and it's such more of a a family based environment, and to get like the kudos from Albert and Alex and saying like, hey man, like keep coming, just keep coming. And then Alex was like, hey man, like, is this something you're thinking about doing? Like, I think it's something that you can do if you want to just keep showing up, just keep showing up. And I was like, all right, like I'll keep showing up, man. I'll keep showing up. And it was, you know, I don't know how deep, you know, you want to get with everything. But that first year, it was very much 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I was struggling with a lot of things, you know, outside the gym, just with personal life stuff. And it was, I was very 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'll be consistent for a month, couple weeks, be gone for a couple weeks. Alex would text me, hey man, come on by, like come on by. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll come on by. And I'll come on by, be the best weeks I'd had. And then I'd get into that kind of, I guess you call it depression, anxious set of mind, down in the dumps, whatever you want to call it. But just struggling with life, man. Struggling with life for that first year at the gym. And it was very much of a yo-yo effect, but never did they let up and always inviting me back in. You know what I mean? And when it was time to, I guess, leave everything that I was struggling with behind and really put it all into the gym, and more importantly, my faith in God, you know, that has really structured my whole life moving forward. You know, Jesus has really done a work in my life, man. And it's truly a blessing. And once I guess buried that old man in my past, everything went up from there, man. I got sober. I don't know. We're going on 3 years ago, of 21 of July. Later that year, I fight my first fight. Within those following months, I meet my fiance. I have like 2 more fights that year. You know, a couple more fights down. I'm proposing to her. You know, getting a good relationship at the gym, private. It's like everything is just flourishing, man, by the grace of God. And it's but 2 things. It was from God's grace, but also their grace as well, for like allowing me to kind of be like, hey, this kid might have some things going on, but hey, we still want him around. And not even just for like his skill or what he has to bring, but like they just, I don't know, they didn't give up on me, man. And I really appreciate that. And if you guys are watching, Albert and Alex and Rosalie and everybody, it's just, I really appreciate that, man. I really do.
They're probably like, well, this dude's got too good a takedown, so we'd be foolish not to bring him in. Right. This is really stupid.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, how lucky and how fortunate to have those people who could see a path for you, even if you saw a path, but could guide you on it.
Oh, man.
And who could kind of see further than you could. Because sometimes when people start a path, they're like, well, it's a little dark. I don't know how it's going to go. It might seem a little bumpy.
Yeah.
But having those guides who can say like, hey, look, we know the trajectory. Right. We can see what your growth and your potential is. And the fact that they were willing to step in, that's not only fortunate, it is a testament to your skill and your talent, but it's also they connected with you as a person. And they said like, you know what, most times the hardest thing in jiu-jitsu or MMA is when you see great talent and you're just trying to explain to them like, you could do this, but it's a you choice.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you being away from it or saying like, I need to step away,
right,
was challenging in the sense that they can't make that decision for you, but they can definitely tell you like, hey, would you like this? Or would you want to roll with us? Because if you roll with us, our crew, everybody goes up.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a really fortunate thing that worked for you. And I think that it's also a testament for you that you pulled yourself out of that as well. So very, very happy to hear that. I would like to kind of start tying that together because, you know, obviously it does work well. One of the primary questions that we ask on this show as well is, when did you fall in love with the jiu-jitsu aspect of it? Now, wrestlers don't always fall in love with jiu-jitsu. Sometimes they go, I got to do this dumb class and I really hate being on my back. And you know what? This is lame. What you guys do is boring. It's slow. Yeah. I want fast. I want action.
Right.
But I think that you did fall in love with it So I'd like to know, when did you fall in love with jiu-jitsu in a way that made you say, like, I don't want to do this as just a hobby. I want to do it as something I'm going to pursue as an actual career.
Right. Well, it's funny you say that, because I think my problem with wrestling was that I couldn't attempt a submission of some sort, right? Because
Really?
I watched UFC fights all the time. And with wrestling, you are limited to a certain set of skills here. And yes, it was awesome, and it built a grit, and it built a toughness in me, and it I guess formed my foundation of martial arts. But when I was able to like get a choke on somebody and not really even know the proper technique, but from everything you see visually, and it's like, oh, I know how to grab my bicep and put my hand behind their head and squeeze until they, tap. Like, and when I was able to do that, I was like, oh yeah, this is I guess it's like it satisfies the soul, because I was yearning for like something of that sort of competition. And when I got some of it, it was like, oh man, this is awesome, And like I said in the beginning, for me, it was like, all right, I just want to get a little bit better at this, a little bit better at that. And then with the fight game, it was like, okay, like, do I want to get good at jiu-jitsu, or do I want to get good at fighting? And then they were like, well, we're just going to grow everything together. You know what I mean? I did my first white belt tournament, and I just I did really well. And then my coach was like, okay, like, we got to keep working, but like, you can't do no more white belt tournaments. Cause like, cause
I was about to tell you today, I was like, I don't think you could do purple belt anymore, fam. Like, we gotta put a wrap on this real soon.
I appreciate that, man. But yeah, and it was just like, all right, cool. And then when I got like, it was also funny too, because they were really like, I'm telling you, they gave me a lot of opportunity, man. They made me a coach when I was still a white belt. So it was funny to me, like, seeing all the kids like with white belts, and I had a white belt too, and a lot of them would come up, they're not thinking, but like, hey coach, like, why do you have a white belt? And Coach Dylan at the time was a brown, and Coach Alex is a black, and and it was just like, oh man, like, I'm gonna get mine soon. I'm gonna get mine soon. And when I got that blue belt, it was like, it's funny, like, yeah, it's just a belt, but it was a sense of accomplishment. Like, yeah, man, I grew, I leveled up, and now I'm like at a place where, okay, I know that I had the knowledge, but now I guess I get the stamp of certification visually,
right?
Whether it's to the kids and even to the parents too. It was just like, I want to let them know, like, hey, not just a slouch regular white belt is teaching your kids. Yeah. But I'm glad that I had to earn it through the rankings, and not just like, oh, here's your blue belt just so you can say you have it. And it was like, no, like, I had to earn it. And when I did, it was awesome. And I think that is like when I fell in love with jiu-jitsu, knowing that like you're always growing, man. You're always growing. And Jay, my fiance, she just started rolling, I don't know, a couple months ago. And it was always a thing where I wanted her to, but like I didn't want to force her or be like boyfriend coach, now fiance coach, and push her. And she's coming in on her own, and it's like she's super excited after every practice, and just to see like, yeah, that's what it's about. Because you're just starting, but you're so invested and you're so intrigued and you're so excited, where it's like my journey and your journey are so different, but yet they're so similar at the same time, because you're just as excited for getting that one submission today, or for breaking out of that one submission, or for breaking that one guard. And it's like, that's the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu, man. There's these little wins within the game that are just like, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. And to even meet people like you, and to have that sort of bond and I guess undiscussed brotherhood with, like, you just understand, man. You just understand. And that's the beautiful part about jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? And with the MMA, similar, but it's a little different because it's very, competitive, right? Yes, jiu-jitsu is too, but I think jiu-jitsu is more, I don't want to say friendly, but, it's more inviting, because not everyone's competing with each other. But in the fight game, you're cool with a couple guys, but I don't know if I'm going to fight you later in a year or two or three. So I'm cool with you, but like,
Well, everybody's doing that size up on like, hey man, you've been eating a lot lately.
Right.
What weight class are you going up to now? Okay, good to know.
Right.
Dude, it happens even on the jiu-jitsu side. I know you said like it's more on the fight game. Bro, I get old people going up to me, and like last week at Open Mat, one of the guys goes, hey man, what's up? Are you competing on Saturday? And I'm like, it's just because we're in the same division. No, I didn't sign up for this one. He's like, oh, okay. Hey, good. And I'm like, what does that matter? Like, bro, you're just going to see each other, but it's such a tight-knit community that even on this side where I'm like trying to be the world's most like, hey man, if I sign up, I'll see you.
Right.
Let's have fun. Let's go do the thing. Maybe for 10 minutes, I don't like you.
Yeah.
And I promise you we'll be back.
Right.
But like, I love the fact that you see it seep, that competition seep in so many different ways that I go, I didn't even expect, like, what are we talking about, fam? Like, this is a local competition. Who gives a shit if I'm in it or not?
Yeah.
So it happens everywhere, not just on the local circuit, but I feel like it's going to go for a long time. But that's so great that you guys get to connect that because it's also going to mean that she's going to understand so much more as you go because so many guys maybe don't have a female that competes or rolls or understands that world.
Right.
So they kind of come in like, I wish you the best, but I only have a certain limit I understand.
Right.
But even just her training jumps her a jump ahead of most people because they're going to be like, oh, I saw that finish he got. That's not easy.
Right.
You know, when we talk about your guillotine grip, and I want to give you some credit on that, not just your guillotine, but I saw in one of your other fights, your rear naked choke finish. When we were rolling, I literally knew I had to, if I was in any of those submissions, address them very quickly because I saw how quickly you got them. So when you were starting to lock up those things, I was like, well, no, we're not doing this.
You did a great job.
And I just remember being like, yeah, I know this is happening. And the grip right up the front was like, that's why he got that submission. It's very good. But I knew, I was like, oh, this is based on statistics and probability. You're probably going to be here. There's not a guarantee I'm going to be able to defend that. It's just more certain people have styles and you want to feel what their style is. And I could tell, I was like, it's wrestling, but informed. So now it has an urgency to it as an MMA fighter should, but it also has a patience on don't lose the position. Let's really hunt these submissions as we're going. And then when things aren't working, let's adapt. Yeah. So I feel like when I see those elements, I feel like I'm really rolling with somebody who you're just seeing where they are now. And then you bookmark it and you go like, oh, let's see where it's at. Like when we roll again in like a year or 6 months or you win something else, we do another interview. Right. Like it's going to be able to mark that progress. And because I have such a timestamp on where you were, I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, dude, this is leveled up or this is really cool. Like if you come at me, like, you know what the other thing is? The nerve of you. Like this is how much top pressure my guy had. At a certain point, he thought he was going to try and leg lock me. And I was like, why is he trying to go for my legs? Like, first of all, it's not fair because you're a little shorter leg, so I don't have as much to grab on here to go for a leg lock. But you got so bored. You were like, I should probably try and knee bar this leg. And I was like, please do.
Yeah.
Please, by all means, go for that. Right. So I had a good laugh at that. I do want to talk about your Sparstar experience because that's where we kind of intersected. That's where I had the appreciation. I had the honor of calling one of your fights. When I watch you fight, I feel like you do really enjoy doing it. And I wanted to ask, from those days when you couldn't see a way in to now getting that, what does it feel like to like remember where you were and know, I don't know that this is my future. And now be at a level where you have this family that shows out for you and that you perform up to what they think you are and even exceed that. So what has that felt like to you?
It's been a process of adjusting for sure, because the very first fight, man, I came out guns blazing, and it was like so, I guess, I don't want to say out of control, but my first fight was for King of the Cage, and it was a pro-am fight, and it was at Toyota Arena, and I was the very last fight, not being the main event, but being the very last fight, as in like I'm just like, you know what I mean, like the closer, as in the main event already happened, arena's already kind of emptied out, but the support is there from the gym, you know what I mean? So they're filling up like this one section, and I'm just feeling my heart, thumping, and in my head I'm feeling a little emotional, and it's like, wow, this is about to happen, like this is everything like I've trained for, and then and that first fight ended like in 30 seconds. I just like rush, take him down. And I just started like hammer fisting, and boom, it was over. I was like, what just happened? You know what I mean? What just happened? And so the second fight, similar emotions, but I was able to start honing it in a little bit. And then just continuing every walkout, it's become more of a, all right, this is what we do. This is what we do. Like, this is just part of the game. The job doesn't start until we're in the cage. So let's control the heart rate a little bit. Let's be a little calm, but let's start getting into that. Let's start turning that switch on. You know what I mean? And shout out to my dad. I remember like just always growing up, man, whether playing football, basketball, whatever it is, just like, he's like, wrestling, all right, it's time to turn on the switch. It's time to turn on the switch. And it was like, okay. And then it became from that to like, when do I turn on that switch? You know what I mean? And finding that balance with my coach and, all right, like, when do we start the warm-up? How long do we warm up for? How warm do we want to be? You know what I mean? How hyped up do I have to get? And just finding that balance. And now it's like, man, like, I'm able to like really soak it in and really appreciate, like you said, all the support that comes out and get to just see the youngsters from the parents' kids and of the coaches of the kids that we coach. And it's like, man, like, I get to soak that in for a second and then boom, right back laser focused into the fight. But it is a surreal feeling, man. Like, at the same time though, it feels like that's where I belong too. And it feels home. You know what I mean? Yes, it's anticipation. Yes, it's a little anxiety. Yes, it's a little, all right, we're about to do this. But it's also like, all right, like, we've done this before. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And I think a credit to wrestling in high school, you go to these big tournaments and these big crowd of bleachers, and you're kind of used to having a crowd, and maybe they're not all focused on you, but you're just used to the commotion. And so I think that allows me to be like, all right, I'm a little comfortable here. I'm not so like, what's everybody saying? It's like, you get to zone that out, lock in on my coach's voice, and it's very distinct. Like, the way, it's so funny because like me and Dylan talk about it all the time. Like, we hear Coach Alex's voice from everywhere. Like, it's just distinct. Like, we're just trained to hear his voice. And that's like the awesome part where, yeah, I know I'm alone in there, but I know my support system's in that corner and I know the trust in them is there. And it's like, it's awesome, man. It's literally a dream coming true. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't want to say a dream come true. Yes, it is a dream come true, but it's a dream coming true because there is a lot of work that I still have yet to do.
Yeah. I mean, you're still in progress. So you're still in where you're building the next thing, the next thing, and the next thing. Because to me, what I see is you're getting more reps. So it's becoming a little bit more where you're getting comfortable there.
Yeah.
And that's always going to come with the territory. But that anxiety is always going to be there in some way, shape, or form. You know, I just tell people, I'm like, one of the reasons why I don't think I freak out or get nervous is I've been used to performing. So I've gotten on stage, I've taught people, I've competed in speech and debate at very high levels.
Right.
That when people are like, oh, do you think you lost because of the audience? And I was like, I guarantee you it's not the audience, it's me. Like, it will always be me because I know the difference between, oh, I got nervous because there's an audience, or it's just, I would never blame that external factor.
Right.
I'm just in the space of like, no, like something didn't work, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that, because I'm just like, let me get that out of the way. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but you only have that if you build up reps.
Gotcha.
And I feel like with you in wrestling, it's like, well, you got acclimated to what I call the noise.
Yes.
And when that noise happens, good or bad, you don't know what it is sometimes. Obviously, there's definitely noise that's very pro you, but you'll get out of a fight and be like, dude, everybody hated me. And you'll be like, what are you talking about? Everybody was cheering for you. And you go, oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know. I was trying to kill someone. So it made that happen in that way. I want to point this out. It looks like right now you'll be fighting July 13th. We don't know an opponent just yet.
Right.
But what does that mean for you? Because I mean, I'm stoked I get to call it, but like, where's your excitement level and what does it feel like to be there and in that level right now as you get ready for that?
It's awesome, man, because now I'm in a new territory, right? Where I got the bullseye on my back now. You know what I mean? I'm the champ, and I know people want my spot. So now it's about just defending the fort, but not just in a defensive sense. It's like, no, like I'm attacking as well. You know, I'm going out of this, I guess, fortress of mine and, you know, not letting anyone close. And that's where my mindset's at right now. And that's just coming from the hard training and everything. But I know, like, hey, man, I don't want to just say, oh, I got the belts and I did it. I want to hold this position. You know what I mean? And stay in this status until I turn pro. That is the goal, and that's where I see myself at. And just knowing that it's going to come with hard work in the gym, hard reps, and trusting my teammates and my coach, and just putting in the work, man, putting in the work, and humbly knowing that it's not easy, but you got to get it, and you got to grind, and you got to know that someone wants your spot. So you better do everything you can to keep it.
Good for you, man. And I mean, here's the good news. And I say this with no BS. I can see it for you. It's just, it's not easy. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. Right. Doesn't mean anything I know is going to come true. But like, I think you have the right discipline, the right games. And I think no matter what, win or lose, you're going to come away with a lot of knowledge as you go along. Like, I really do feel like it'll be fun to continue watching that progression. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Here's what I want to do, though. Yeah. So see that camera right there? That camera belongs to you. What I want you to do right now is I want you to go ahead, thank anybody who you'd like to, your team, any sponsors you got, anything like that. Go ahead and give them a shout out and tell people where they can train with you if they're ever looking to train with you, sir.
Cool. First and foremost, thank you, Jesus, for everything you've done for my life. Thank you, God. Baby, I love you. Jay, you're the best. You're the most awesome person I've ever met in my life. And I'm super excited to see where our future goes. And I love you so much. Dad, I love you, man. And always been the number one support, and I appreciate you. Jim, Cage Combat Academy, Alex Reyes, Rosalie, I appreciate you guys, man. You guys are not only a coach, mentors, but big brother, big sister, and you guys are family. Love you guys. Dylan, my right-hand man, it's iron sharpening iron in there, and it's got big things coming, man. We just got to keep grinding. And everyone at Cage Combat Academy, from the students to the parents and everyone else in their training, I appreciate you guys, man. And that's, I think I mentioned in the last, I don't know, I think I mentioned it in a post where, yeah, I won, but the win was for the whole gym. The win was for the whole family. The win was for my fiance. The win was for everybody. Yeah, I do it for me, but it's a team thing, and it's I appreciate every single one of you, and it's let's just keep it going. Let's keep it going, and I thank you guys, and yeah, man, just blessed.
Well, let's also get this man sponsored. Let's be very clear about this. I don't understand how this dude's going to be so good. I mean, like, buy low, sell high. That's what I always tell people. Like, if you aren't sponsoring this guy, you're foolish. He's already a champion. Like, why are we not getting on this? So if you guys have things that you can go ahead and get involved with them, very good guy, very good grappler, and I expect to see good things. This is independent of anything. I won't really make any mention of that, but I will tell you this. I'm very much looking forward to it. I know you say keep things rolling, and let's do this. Let's put a pin on where this conversation is, and let's pick it up. So maybe after your next win or something like that, we'll bookmark it. But I want to tell you, Mike, it was a pleasure to get to know you better today, and it was great to get to roll with you. But I really do appreciate your time and the conversation, and I'm looking forward to calling your next fight. And here's the good news. Now I can roast you. Now I have full permission to say whatever I want. So if any of you guys get in on me on the chat, I want you to know this is my permission. We're friends now. Yeah. So any of you who are like, it's kind of mean, I don't know what he's saying about that. You'll be like, nah, he's my boy now. So like, it's different. So
well, now I got to send the dogs out to you now too.
Oh, you can do whatever you want. Here's the problem though. I've seen what you can shoot at verbally, and I am not afraid of that. Physically, a little different story. But I can tell you this. I just always like to be in that circle of people because I feel like more and more it's harder for people to have a sense of humor. And I always gravitate towards those who have a funness to what they do, or like a lightness to, hey man, I know we're all trying to kill each other, but maybe we can have fun while we're doing it, or have a good sense of humor. Yeah. And so whenever that happens, you know, those are always the guys who I feel become friends on the show. And I feel like we're safe to say that you have reached that status. So why don't we do this, dude? We'll put a pin here. Congratulations, Mike. And again, congratulations, champ. Good work on that. Appreciate it. Let's do this right now. So thank you so much for joining us here today. I just want to say a few things. First and foremost, if you want to support the show, do us a solid, like, comment, and subscribe. If you don't know what you wanted to comment on, I'm going to give you a prompt right now. So I want to ask you this. What is the one thing that brought you into jiu-jitsu, and what kept you training? So we heard a great story over with Mike today where he was talking about how He wasn't sure he was going to find his way back, but he was able to do it. So I'd like to know, if you're watching this and you train, what brought you to us here in jiu-jitsu? So let's keep that in mind. All right, Dose. You can also find these Grappling Hour t-shirts that I've got. You can go on over to our little site over at rafesparza.com/merch. Get yourself one of those and a hoodie, whatever it is you want to get. We totally appreciate you guys. Got much love for you. And everybody who supports the show, it goes right back into the show. So I really, really appreciate you guys for doing that. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, because we do great work on there. And I hope that you guys are watching or listening or whatever it is you're doing on those podcast apps. But I really do appreciate those who send us notes and say that they're listening there. And last but not least, you could also find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, whatever you want to call them, all at Grappling Hour, as well as Discord. Oh, and don't forget our Patreon. Yeah, join our Patreon. $5 a month. You can see these interviews 30 days before anybody else. And for a few extra dollars, you can see our extra bonus content not available anywhere else. All right, ladies and gents, I think that's going to do it for us here today. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.